to be an easy one. Someone's got to talk about it. Gaining weight during grief. Okay, everybody experiences some form of grief at some point in their life. And what's never really spoken about is how this can have an impact on these areas of your life, like gaining weight, okay, getting out of shape, getting unfit. Like that, those are the things that aren't spoken about. Generally, grief isn't really spoken about much at all. It's kind of like whatever area of life it's in, it's kind of like a taboo thing. You know, I've experienced it within my life. I've experienced it, you know, with a son. I've seen the impact it has had on my partner and her, you know, her weight and her kind of journey with fitness has all been impacted by those things. And I feel like it's something that's never really spoken about. I always say to clients, there's different stages of our life where we put our health and our appearance and our weight on a back seat for other reasons. Other things become more important during those times. And everybody goes through these different stages. Grief is one of those things. Working for a job promotion, moving house, studying for something, you know, all of these different things which take a dominant role at certain times in your life might make your weight and everything take a bit of a back seat. Now, I think in terms of when we're talking about grief, it's completely normal for you not to think about yourself during this time. You're going through a tough time. People often eat because of those emotions. They drink because of those emotions. They take on habits that aren't necessarily the best habits as a way of coping. It's completely normal to gain weight over this period of time. And actually, while you're going through that process, trying to add something like trying to lose weight into that as well might not be the best thing for your mental state. You're adding another stress. When the time is right, you're going to know when the time is right. You're going to get to a point where you feel like you are ready to make changes, because ultimately the way we generally feel in terms of how our body feels, health, physically, is all going to have an impact on how we mentally feel. So if you're in a bad place because you're grieving over something, which I know I've been there, and that's why I'm making this video, because I've been, you know, I've always been someone that's incredibly into health and fitness. Exercise has always been something I've enjoyed. It's always made me feel a certain way. It's always made me feel good. When I lost my son, it wasn't doing what it normally did for me. And it's taken me a long time to kind of find my way back with that stuff. And because you're not thinking about that. You're not in that place to think about that. You're not in the place to be thinking about yourself. You're just trying to think, how am I going to cope with this? How am I going to get through this? What does life look like after this? But there will always come a stage where working on yourself is also going to be a way of healing that. Okay? It doesn't have to be an immediate thing. It could be 1, 2, 3 years down the line. It could be months down the line. Whatever it may be, but there's always going to come a stage where working on yourself is also going to help you get over that grief, because feeling good about yourself makes you mentally feel better as well. And exercise, the endorphins, you know, losing a bit of weight, getting fitter, working on yourself, focusing on yourself, working on some bad habits, implementing some good habits is always going to have a positive impact on dealing with these things for the long term. Because ultimately, if you don't feel great about yourself, it's very hard to deal with these other emotions, because it's also another thing you throw on top. Oh my God, I feel this particular way, I'm grieving about this, but then I also don't feel great about myself. But there's also giving yourself that leeway. You don't need to address that straight away. The most important thing is dealing with that mental side of things, getting over that grief, coming to terms with what's going on, trying to get a hold of your lifestyle, the other things that are important to you, and get your lifestyle and your life back on track. And then you can start focusing on trying to make yourself feel better about yourself. And in the long term, that is going to make that grieving process a lot easier. When you feel good about yourself, it is going to make that process feel a lot easier.